Hi all, I'm Dr. Christy Howell and I'm the Education and Engagement Coordinator in the Center for Sustainability at Johnson County Community College. Whether you're here by assignment or by happy accident, we're going to spend some time today in this virtual space talking and thinking about a problem that affects us all, climate change. Catherine Hayhoe, a faculty member at Texas Tech, has this great quote about the central challenge of talking about climate change, that nobody really knows how to talk about it without sort of devolving in or resorting to frustration and sadness and woe, right? It's a really big problem to grapple with. We're going to try to address some of that today without devolving into frustration and woe. And the vehicle that we're going to use to do this is called Project Drawdown. I've linked to the Project Drawdown website on many of these slides because we'll end up clicking through and checking out that website later on in our conversation. If you're watching this for class, your faculty member will probably have a copy of this presentation with my notes in the notes section. So if you need that, do reach out to your faculty member. If you're not watching it for class and you'd like a copy of the presentation anyway, feel free to reach out to me. I'm happy to share it. You can email me at sustainability@jccc.edu and I'll get that right to you. I've also linked to a lot of different resources or mentioned them throughout, and I'll make sure that those resources are also shared in the comments section below. As always, you're absolutely welcome and encouraged to share this resource with others. You're encouraged to reach out if there's something you're looking for and you can't find, or even better, if there's something that you wish I'd mentioned that I didn't. I'm always excited to learn more from the people that I work with every day, and I'll happily integrate recommendations into this conversation if you know of resources that we should have included here. So with that, let's go. Our time together today is going to work out a little like this. So we're going to do a quick introduction to Drawdown and how we ended up with this really useful document. Then we'll do a broad overview of the top 20 solutions before we dig more narrowly into a few of the solutions that we're deploying across campus. You'll have some time to discover and consider and reflect on what solutions might make the most sense for you to employ or to improve on at home, and then we'll wrap up. Throughout, I'll end up mentioning a lot of recommendations for online sources. As I mentioned before, links to all of those are going to be dropped into the comments below, or if you're reading this in a PowerPoint from a faculty member, they'll be in the notes section. So it's important that we all start on the same page as far as definitions go, and the word drawdown may not be familiar to you in this context. So drawdown in this context is the point at which greenhouse gases start to decline in the atmosphere. That idea forms the entire point of this research organization. The organization was started in 2014, and the book here was published in 2017, and the website was published that same year as well. So if you're on JCCC's campus, or if you have access to your local public library, your library probably has copies of this in their stacks for you to check out. Know that the website is more regularly updated, obviously, than the book is. The book is still very useful, but if you're looking for more recent, current, up-to-date information on different solutions, do check out the website. It's free. You don't need a subscription or anything to use that space. I'll also recommend for folks who prefer audiobooks, the audiobook listen of the paper version, obviously, of the book is outstanding. And if you are more inclined to get more out of audiobooks, do take advantage of that resource as well. So what does the Drawdown Project do in all of these different venues? The book, the website, the research organization. Their goal and what they've done here for us is they review, analyze, and identify 100 climate solutions. And then they describe the projected efficacy of those solutions in clear, non-specialist language. Each solution on the website also includes a really generous amount of additional data. And for those of you who may be using this resource as part of a technical writing class or a math class or something to that effect, there are a lot of data and additional formulae as well for how they developed these different solutions. The goal here, the overarching goal for all of this, is sort of twofold, right? To offer practical solutions to really complex problems, firstly. And then secondly, it's an attempt to shift climate conversations from that woe and helplessness and sadness and anger that I mentioned at the beginning, that Katharine Hayhoe references, toward some real concrete actions that individuals and small groups and communities can deploy for themselves. So for me in my day-to-day work, this resource is really valuable because these quotes on this slide are actual transcriptions of conversations that I've had with students. Our students, both at JCCC and in our broader community, across Overland Park, across Johnson County, and across the KC Metro, are really grappling with that worry and frustration and anger, because folks really don't know how to tackle what feels like an absolutely insurmountable problem. So that's what, for me, makes this resource especially valuable. The fact that the solutions it offers are practical and data-driven helps people sort of see a path toward a better future in a way that a lot of other resources may not offer quite as explicitly. So that's one of the reasons that I like this particular resource so much. What do Drawdown Solutions do? Drawdown Solutions do some combination of these three things. They propose a shift from fossil fuel or inefficient energy bases. They encourage a reduction in resource use through behavior change and better design. And they encourage biosequestration of carbon in plants and in soils. So you're going to see bits and pieces of all three of those solutions woven throughout your exploration of the book or the website. Not every solution includes all three, obviously, but solutions on the whole are going to include some part of these. The other thing that each solution offers is they are all viable, they're scalable, and they're financially feasible. So you can actually see financials and data behind each individual solution. To that end, we're going to take a look at one of the solutions in a second. Solutions are individually ranked. On the website, in the book, this is a lot easier to see than on the website. The website sort of stepped away from making the ranking structure so clear, but it's still a useful tool to help people think through different climate solutions on the whole. So they're ranked 1 through 100, and then each solution includes the amount of carbon dioxide reduced by implementation, along with an approximation of the cost for initial implementation and then for continuation of that solution. So one of the solutions that my students really, really enjoy talking about is EVs. So let's take a look at cars as an example. So EVs, you know, everybody wants a Tesla, right? I mean, I'd love one too. EVs are super popular right now, but EVs are not among the best solutions offered in Drawdown to solve our current climate problem. EVs reduce between close to 12 and over 15 gigatons of carbon in the atmosphere. They cost around that net first cost of $4.5 trillion to almost $6 trillion. And then the sustained lifetime cost is here, this $15 to $22 trillion. Each solution that you see is going to have each of these three factors listed at the very top. That's the first thing you're going to note. You'll also see sort of some themes, right? So solutions are going to have a thematic heading. This solution in particular is an issue of source reduction, and it is related to the transportation sector. If you clicked on transportation here, you would go to that broader sector and see all of the solutions related to transportation. And then more sort of a subtitle for this particular heading. Each solution that you read is going to have a very brief 1 or 2 sentence blurb at the top that's going to show you, sort of tell you what to expect in this section. You'll have an impact section at the bottom, and they're typically going to be also very readable. This first page is all going to sort of be written in layman's terms. You don't really need a lot of specialist knowledge to understand and appreciate the value of solutions when you're looking at them on this initial page. When you want that specialist information, or either when you're looking for that specialist information perhaps, if you click on the technical summary, you'll go to a page that's going to look really familiar to any of you who regularly read scientific literature. You're going to have a brief intro, methodology, results, discussion, and sources. So for those of you who are using Drawdown as a resource for a class paper, presentation, or other research that you're doing, you're going to want to get a handle on the topic in that initial overview page, and then you're going to want to proceed on into the technical summary. That's going to be where you're going to find the best information for your needs. So with the example of cars, you've sort of had a chance to dig into what Drawdown looks like as a tool. One of the things I like to do with students and community members as we talk through Drawdown is I really like to have them try to guess to see what solutions in Drawdown they think are the most valuable in terms of carbon reduction. So in this first exercise, if you're working by yourself, that's fine. But if you're in a group where you can team up, pair up, and do this work together, it makes it a little bit more fun. I'm going to show you the top 20 solutions in Drawdown. They've been randomized. And what I'd like for you to do is either together or apart, choose what you and a partner or by yourself identify as the top 5 of those 20. You're gonna pause me when you get to this next slide for about 3 minutes, make your choices, list what you think are the top 5 solutions by carbon reduced, and then we will come back together and possibly find some happy surprises in the selections you've made. So here's your list of 20 solutions randomized. Go ahead and pause me here for 3 minutes and choose your top 5. Okay, we're back. Here's the list. take a look through, see if anything here strikes you as surprising. When I have this conversation with students, faculty, and staff at JCCC, we have a little bit of fun with the list when it's revealed, right? Not many of the people I work with on a day-to-day basis choose refrigerant management as the top item listed in Drawdown for the reduction of carbon. But really, when you think about the especially today, since it's going to be, 100 degrees with the heat index, when you think about the popularity and really necessity for quality of life of refrigerants in our day-to-day existence, not only in air conditioning, but also in refrigerators and food preservation, it's not really as surprising anymore. And refrigerant management is a hugely complex conversation that affects profoundly the lives of billions across the globe. But there are probably some others here that you may find equally surprising. Energy is really, really popular among the students, faculty, and staff that I work with every day. Solar farms, rooftop solar, and wind, especially renewable energy conversations are huge, but it's not the first or only solution. It's what a lot of people think of first. And it's not to say that energy solutions aren't vitally important, but they're not the only solution either. One of the things I really like about these solutions and the way that they're presented, if you look closely, about 20 of these solutions listed here, if you look closely at each of them, you're going to see that almost half of them relate to food and relate to decisions that we can make as consumers and as diners every day of our lives. 2 of the top 5 are related to those personal decisions that we can make with reduced food waste and a plant-rich diet, individually, that we can encourage in our homes, that we can work on with our children and the children and students that we serve, and that we can build interest in and knowledge of in our communities. So we talk a lot about the inaccessibility and the expense of energy-based solutions and how those really aren't available to all. If you rent your own home, you may not have the ability to install rooftop solar, even as the prices drop and make that a more financially feasible option for homeowners. But we can all work to reduce food waste. We can all work to eat more plants in our diet and less meat. If we consider land use, cultivation practices, and food choices, over half of the top 20 solutions are now within our reach. Again, this isn't to challenge the importance of energy and waste. It's to remind ourselves to really, really think about and remember that the solutions to the climate problems that we've created for our culture are more solvable than we've allowed ourselves to believe. Now that you've gotten a little bit of an overview of solutions, we're going to take a look at 3 of them a little bit more closely. I'm going to talk you through the ways that we're employing those 3 solutions on campus, the conversations that we're having in classes, and some of the resources that may be useful to you as you explore these solutions for yourselves. So one of the solutions that we talk about a lot at JCCC is the reduction of food waste. This is partially because at Johnson County Community College, we do compost all of our pre-consumer food waste, and we are working to build more individual diner knowledge of the composting of post-consumer food waste. So first of all, I should probably note pre-consumer food waste is the food waste that comes from the back of house, from kitchens, coffee bars, from our culinary program, and from our child development center on campus. Post-consumer food waste is food waste that's touched your plate, right? So pre-consumer food waste is really about educating staff, educating student employees, staff, and occasionally faculty, especially in the hospitality culinary program and the child development center, making sure that our employees know how to manage food waste. Post-consumer food waste is about educating the public. And so there's a little bit more of a learning curve when you're talking about post-consumer food waste than when you're talking about pre-consumer food waste. That doesn't make it any less or any more important. They're both vital. But having these conversations, especially in our culinary program and with our dining services student staff, is really important because we're educating the next generation of folks who may be doing this work professionally. It's hard to believe, really, but a third of the food that we grow never makes it to a consumer. And so this is part of that consumer purchaser education, because in places with more reliable infrastructure, the waste that you see happens thanks to sort of a more willful retailer or customer decision. Retailers and consumers that prefer pretty produce, and then consumers that may take too much at a buffet, right? And so in areas that have a better transportation structure, that food waste happens a lot closer to you and to me, the consumer. In places with less reliable infrastructure, the waste is more accidental and it happens earlier in the food chain. There's limited transportation perhaps, or perhaps it's harder to preserve food or store it. And so you see these real differences in the way that food waste happens depending on what the community has in terms of resources at its disposal. So the fact that for many of us in the Johnson County area, we are making active decisions, or maybe we're making forgetful decisions when we, for instance, go to the grocery store and buy that giant bag of spinach and then leave it in the back of our crisper drawer until it turns to goo. Not that I've ever done that. I think everybody's done that at least once. Being a little bit more mindful about the produce that we buy is one important way that we can make personal decisions that advance this particular solution. In this particular solution, there are a lot of different things that you can do as students, as faculty, and as staff to help you become a little more mindful about the problem. You can keep an individual food waste diary and do some analysis at home. That's one thing that's really popular with a lot of students. We've also worked with faculty to have conversations with their students about attractive produce and what it means to eat ugly food, and the kinds of conversations that we can have with students and with consumers about buying food that may not be as cosmetically perfect as we might like. We also have a couple of different resources that are on film. So one of them is a free resource on Vimeo called Man in the Maze. It's a short, gorgeous little documentary about food waste. In the center's offices, I have a DVD copy of Wasted, which is a documentary that came out a few years ago about food waste. I'm happy to check that out to faculty and or students for their own viewing. I would also suggest, if you're more interested in what we're doing on campus, you can check out our dashboards of food waste and compost data. That's all available at jccc.edu/sustainability, and then click on data and analytics. It'll take you to that page. You can search on the Campus Ledger blog for the keyword compost, and that will take you to a handful of short videos about campus composting operations. Obviously, when we're back on campus, we're happy to put together tours for you to visit the compost shed. I'll talk you through what closing the loop of food waste means for us at JCCC. We do have one of the only in-vessel composters that we use for instruction in the state of Kansas. So it's a really great learning opportunity for you. I'm happy to visit with your classes. I'm happy to do interviews with you if you're a student and you're looking for resources on a paper or some other topic along these lines. Just reach out to me and I'll help you locate stuff that you need, or I'll get you on my calendar so we can talk. Let's look at another solution that we see at JCCC. Rooftop Solar comes in at number 10 in solution rank. And this is another one that's really popular for students and faculty here. Rooftop solar, PV solar, is scalable, and it allows a reduction in fossil fuel use. So this is a source reduction issue. With smart grids, diversification, and net metering, people who take advantage of rooftop solar can help with peak demand times, which is super important now that we're getting into the summer. Because solar is so scalable, it's also a democratizing force, and it really can improve the quality of life for a lot of people. And our campus commitment to solar is pretty broad, thanks in part to student advocacy and to administrative support. We have lots of ways that we can talk about solar use here at JCCC. We track and maintain a considerable data set on solar production, and that data is really easy to find. You can find it jccc.edu/sustainability. It's in the same dashboard set as where the compost and food waste data is. So if you go to analytics, you would just click on solar instead of compost. We have a lot of faculty in a lot of different classes who use this data in the classroom, but we also have a lot of, or at least I have a lot of students who ask some really sort of introductory questions about how solar works. And when we're not face-to-face and you're not asking me those questions personally, I would suggest that you might take a look at YouTube, search for Bill Nye and solar, and he has a collection of videos that walk through how solar panels are produced, and then how the solar PV conversion process, how the routing works, how net metering and smart grids work to help solar give us a little bit more bang for its buck in terms of reducing energy demand from non-renewable sources. So again, I would take a look there if you're looking for sort of more introductory information. If you're looking for stuff that's a little bit more advanced, I would suggest you might want to take a look at some of our faculty in electrical and technology, our CET programs, our career and engineering technology programs at JCCC. Those faculty teach courses in solar, and both for credit, and then I believe there are also some non-credit opportunities that are available. You can take advantage of those as well. If you're having trouble finding a resource that you think might be helpful, again, drop me a line. We'll help you find it. Last but never least, definitely not least, this is a conversation that I have pretty regularly too, is conservation agriculture. So Johnson County Community College has the Open Petal Farm and our Sustainable Agriculture Certificate. And that program and the farm, the lab space that uses it, is probably one of our more popular conversations to have with our community at large and with students at JCCC. Conservation agriculture is ranked 16th as a solution, and it's one of those solutions, as we noted earlier, that's related to the ways that we produce food and manage land. So conservation practices in agriculture, those have been around for a really long time. Anybody who's grown up in a food producing or crop producing state has heard of no-till practices. And no-till and low-till and row crop cultivation is a kind of conservation agriculture, but it doesn't take into account as fully as conservation agriculture does the enrichment of soils. And so that's where the big difference is. These ideas of regenerative agriculture and conservation agriculture, with their meticulous attention to soil's health, give us an increased capacity for addressing human and climate health as well. And they also give us a really useful lens for thinking about where our food comes from. To that end, I've included a link here to a series of videos that we created with the Land Institute in Salina, Kansas. Salina and the Land do amazing work on developing perennial food crops. So perennial crops, perennial grains that can be and are intended to be for human consumption. And so the kernza grain that they've developed there is the product of years and years of work. And the collection of YouTube videos that I've linked to in this slide will give you a really useful yeoman's introduction to what that work means, not only for conservation agriculture, but for our food system nationally and globally. So we've looked at 3 solutions in context here at JCCC, but I want to wrap things up today by thinking about the ways that you can use the information in Drawdown for your own good work. One of the things that we focus on in the center is helping people improve inefficient systems. So even if you're looking at something to do by yourself, it's really important to try to work with others, even if that work's just focused on team building and positive reinforcement. So these solutions that we've listed here are thoughts that others that we've worked with in the center have come to us with that have really worked out well for them. Obviously, plant-rich diets and reduced food waste we've talked about. We didn't talk as much here about recycling and materials management, including using items made from recycled stock. But all of these are useful ways to sort of get yourself involved in this conversation and doing the work that needs to be done for yourself and for your families. If you're having trouble finding ideas, ways to get involved, or allies in the climate solution that you're really interested in, again, reach out to us. We'll help make introductions, and we'll help you find ways that you can feel more a part of a team. So in review, Drawdown is a set of useful tools that offer rich, practical, data-driven solutions to the current climate crisis. Some of these solutions are easy to see in practice both at JCCC and in our broader community. Some of them are a little bit more challenging. If you're looking for an example of a solution that you're really interested in learning more about, and you're having trouble finding it, don't be shy. Reach out to us with both suggestions and questions on our social media channels. This is one of our favorite conversations to have with people in our community, people on our campus. When our neighbors come to us with questions, they usually give us a chance to learn something new, right? Or to build new content for others along the way. So don't be shy in asking. We look forward to hearing from you in the future. And you can do that in any of these ways. We're active on social media. You're welcome to just drop us a line. And then, as promised, I want to share our resources page. But with that, I'm going to bid you adieu. And good luck to finding your path in the climate solutions that make sense for you and your families.